Hello, we're going to get started in just a few seconds here with our next edition of Flippin' the Script. We have Kelly, the Reps Props Manager here, and I'm so excited to start. We'll begin in just a few. Okay, good evening, Kelly. How's it going?
Going great. How are you?
So well, so excited to be chatting with you tonight. Everyone, this is Flippin' the Script. This is the Repertory Theater of St. Louis's live video introduction to the incredible artists who make the theater possible. And I'm so thrilled to welcome Kelly Kreutsberg, our props manager. Kelly, how are you doing? Welcome to Flippin' the Script.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
I wanted to just kick off with asking you to introduce yourself. If you'll tell us how long you've been with the Rep, what your job here is in brief, and maybe something surprising that people wouldn't know about you.
Well, my name is Kelly Kreutsberg, and I've been at the Rep since about 2003. I started at the Rep as the shopper buyer for the scene shop, and then over the years transitioned to be the props master. Props manager, whichever title you prefer. And then the props manager for the Rep is in charge of procuring all the props for rehearsals and for on stage. So everything that you see on stage, from a notebook and a pen to the chair the actor is sitting in, that is all provided by the props department. My department consists primarily of me, and then I have an amazing carpenter named Ralph Wilkie, and then I have a great group of work study students and hourly employees that help us achieve the great looks that we get on stage. Something unique about me that most people don't know is that while visiting Egypt, we actually got stopped by the authorities, and the people we were with were questioned because they were worried that we had been kidnapped. So that's just a little, because it was two American women with two Egyptian teachers who were men. They thought that the Egyptians had kidnapped us and were taking us sightseeing, which didn't make any sense to us, but that was what they thought.
Wow. That is an adventure. Yeah. I did not know that. And were you able to convince them like quickly and easily?
They didn't talk to us because we were female. They only talked to the Egyptian gentlemen. And they were like, yes, these are American teachers. They're over with this exchange program. And so let us finish looking at the Roman catacombs.
Can I just point out that if you were kidnapped, in fact, it would make no sense to ask. Of course, the kidnapper would say that, no, they're not kidnapping you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Well, now we've learned something about the Egyptian law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So props manager, can you tell us a little bit more, like maybe if we start with a show, like you've got the script, you know who the director is and all that stuff. Can you kind of take us through what you do as props manager for the show?
So we will get the drawings from the designer, and we'll get the script, and we'll read the script and make a list of all the props that are in the show. So that's everything that the actors touch, all the furniture in the room, the draperies, everything down to the water in the plumbing. So in Feeding Beatrice, we had that sink on stage that had running water. That was a prop. We did all of the cabinetry on that wall, and all the jam that she ate for that show. So any food is also a prop. We like to say, when the Girl Scouts come on their tours, we say that everything that is scenery is the walls of your house. Your costumes are everything that you wear, and everything else is a prop. So we take care of a multitude of things in the prop shop. So when we get those drawings, we will start figuring out the best way to achieve the look that the designers and the directors want. We don't just go to Home Depot and buy the cheapest or the easiest thing. We don't go to the warehouse and just pull any old chair. We want to pull exactly the right item or build or create exactly the right thing that is period appropriate, that is specific to the time, that is specific to the region, to the social demographics of the show. We want everything to be as accurate as possible. When people come on tours through the prop shop, we always show them envelopes because we will address every letter with a full street address that is a realistic address for the town. And it will have the correct number of digits on any phone numbers that you see, whether or not we were dialing with area codes at the time. So we try to be as specific as possible with everything that we do and everything that we put on stage. Our goal is that you should not notice what we actually produce. We want you to watch the performance and watch the performers and not be taken out of the moments that they're creating for you by a bad prop. If you notice what I've done something wrong. Everything should just seamlessly blend into that world.
That is beautiful. I feel like the things you create are so beautiful that I disagree only slightly, because I think a lot of rep patrons do notice just how beautiful and how accurate the things are. But that's because we have patrons who are such theater lovers that they have a refined eye and they're looking for the details. Mm-hmm. But I totally agree with you that you beautifully create a realistic world where people can actually just embody the story.
Mm-hmm. Our newspapers will actually be printed correct to the day, to the actual newspaper that was printed. And if the newspaper didn't actually exist, we will find the closest regional newspaper and print every single page from that newspaper, so that if it opens wrong and an audience member sees 3 pages back where we weren't planning on the actor ever looking, it still has the ads, and you can look up the price of a loaf of bread, or whatever day and time that was.
So cool. I also am realizing that we are obviously, because this is your job, using the word props a lot. And some people might watch this who actually don't know. Now they know from you that it's, other than the walls of the house and the clothes you're wearing, it's everything else. But what does that word actually mean? Where does that come from as a theater term?
I'm not actually sure on that.
I'm not either.
I believe it's properties. So whatever your property was.
Yeah.
I think, but I could be completely wrong. Maybe one of our viewers can, enlighten us.
Yeah. If you know why we call them properties, put it in the comments and you will be a hero.
Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about how you become a props manager?
Traditionally, most prop managers come from the world of set design. Either they've decided that set design is not for them, or they've realized that it's more lucrative and stable career. But most people will get a degree in set design and then cross over into props. But really, what matters more than getting a degree in set design is having the desire to learn and to create, because my job changes every day based on what show we're doing. I never know what I'm going to be doing that day until I get the notes from rehearsal the day before. So as long as you've got a willingness to learn and a desire to learn and are really creative and inventive, props is the perfect career for you.
Yeah, I mean, what you're describing with the detail of the newspapers and the letters and the phone numbers, that sounds like a lot of research. So that has to be something that you're interested in or good at, right?
Yes, you have to be able. It's changed so much with the internet. My office is still full of books and file folders full of things that props masters before me used to keep files on, bills and forms and all those things that now I just can Google it or create it in Photoshop super easy. Whereas they had to look in a book of all the cigarette packs. Now it's just right there on the internet. So the research is a very key part of it and keeping it completely accurate.
Yeah, that's so cool. Does that also change the shopping of it? I mean, are there things that you used to have to create by hand that now you just eBay, or?
For the most part, it used to be we would go to the antique malls and you would send Polaroid pictures to the designer of like 14 chairs that you found at the antique mall, and then they would look at them and call you, and then you would go to the antique mall and hope that those chairs were still there 2 weeks later. But now it's much more of a, oh, I found this on Craigslist. Oh, I found this on Facebook Marketplace. Oh, what do you think of this? Instantaneous responses. And instead of just settling for, oh, it's a Victorian chair, we can find exactly the style of Victorian chair they want. So instead of spending, weeks searching for and not getting exactly the right thing, we can spend a few days searching and give them much more options from all over the country.
Yeah, that is so cool. You mentioned that you don't necessarily know what you're going to be doing until you get the notes from the previous night's rehearsal. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me what some of the most challenging moments that a props manager might have to be ready to deal with might be?
My job is all about change, and it's all about responding to those rehearsal reports and how the actors see the prop and how they interact with them will really determine how we change the course and how we built it. Once the show was in production, one of the worst moments I've had was during a production of Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, when I was sitting in the house on opening night and the character Brick sat on a chaise and the leg broke into 2 pieces in the middle of the show. And luckily, Ralph was in the audience that night also, and he was able to repair it during intermission and get it back on. So we are responding very quickly to those kinds of things when things break in the moment during the run of the show. But then also during the rehearsal process, we're changing based on, it can be that the directors decide that they really want the stool that was in their grandmother's kitchen to, this is too heavy for the actor to lift. Or we need this to be able to tap dance and do 4 magic tricks. When we did Angels in America, we made all the books that light up. And those went through so many different iterations of, okay, how much fire are we going to be able to put in it? How many lighting effects? Is it now too heavy for the angel to fly with the book? How many different books are there? We took so many pages out of the books every night because they just could not carry it. It just got so heavy because it was so big. And that was not the actor's fault in any way. It was just, we need to change what we're doing for the benefit of the show. So we want to make sure that whatever we're doing is doing it the most for the production.
Yeah, but that's a real challenge. Making something beautiful, pouring a lot of work into it, and
then changing it all and taking it all apart the next day.
Yeah, that can be really brutal. I know that and also go ahead.
I was going to say, there's people that become so invested in the things they create that this is not the world for them. I've had students and other artisans that are like, but I spent 12 hours making this. And I was like, yes, and you did a wonderful job. But I need you to take it completely apart and start completely over on it and do it out of this other product, or do it a completely different way, because now it needs to break into 4 pieces instead of 2 pieces. And now it's got to do this trick. And you've just got to, if you can't roll with change and roll with the punches, this is not the career for you, because change every day.
That's exactly what I was going to ask, because you also teach props at Webster University in the conservatory. Mm-hmm. And how do you teach students that level of non-attachment, or that level of making something you love and then having to maybe take it apart?
It's hard for some of them. They will become very attached to things, but I think that it's all about teaching them that it's for the good of the show. It's all about the end product and getting there and really being able to achieve that moment where the audience connects with the performer and helping that moment be amplified. So
I'm glad that's what you said, because earlier when you said some directors just want a chair like in their grandma's house, I was thinking, oh no, It's all blamed on the director.
No, not at all. But we did. We had a director that was like, no, it has to be this stool. It was for a production of The Christmas Story, actually. And it was the red stool that had the step stool that flipped up and down. And it's not period correct for the show at all, but it was what his grandmother had, and that's what he had and what he saw for that. So we got him exactly that stool from that was just like his grandmother had in her kitchen.
Well, I always try to be the director who the props master or props manager doesn't hate.
We love when people come in with ideas, and when they, you can come in and look at something and tell me you hate it, as long as you have an opinion. What drives most props people batty is the wishy-washy. Oh, I'm not sure what's wrong with it. If you have a visceral response to it, just tell me. I can't fix it if you don't tell me what the problem is. And my job is to solve problems.
Isn't all of our jobs to solve problems nowadays?
Yes.
Can you tell us about some of the, you've already given so many really juicy tidbits. Can you tell some of the like weirder or more interesting experiences you've had at the rep or props that you've had to create?
Oh, we've created some doozies over the years. During One Man, Two Governors, it was just one trick after another. And it was the same thing on The Play That Goes Wrong. It was one trick after another. And everything that could possibly go wrong did. So on One Man, Two Governors, we had the fire extinguisher that they needed to be able to cover the audience plant completely in foam. And we went through probably 30 different trials of what do we put in the fire extinguisher? How much do we pressurize the fire extinguisher? What will come out of the costume? What will burn her eyes? And the thing that actually worked the best was Johnson & Johnson baby shampoo. Of all the things, it was just like the random, like, okay, let's start with the mildest thing and try that. And that produced the best foam for covering. And I've probably told tons of props masters about that. And then we had issues on that show with the fish because he has to chop the heads off of fish. And when we started, the director wanted live fish, like real baked fish every night. We're like, we can't not do that. That's just gross. It's gross. No one wants to handle some real fish every night and chop the heads off of them. So we ended up casting the fish. Well, when we cast them the first time, we didn't realize that the slime on the real raw fish would react badly with our casting equipment. So it was like you had a fish that just came out covered in the curing did not work. So then I had to take all the fish home and bake the fish. And then we had to actually cast them in dental alginate first, and then in plaster, and then in our casting rubbers so that we could get to that. And we actually had to do the same thing with the standing crown of lamb for that, because we learned a lot about how meat and other forms of flesh react to different casting products during that. I've also had many a run-in with public safety. I shouldn't say run-in, but I do spend a lot of time on the phone with public safety for the university because we are on a university campus, and I will have to do all the gun testing and all the sword testing and all of that. But, one time we were doing a show in the studio. Now I blanked on what the name of it was, but there was an axe and we needed to test the spray of the axe. So I had set up on the loading dock, which is, on a fairly busy thoroughfare through Webster Groves. And I had to call them because I was like, I'm going to have an axe and a bucket of blood out there to be testing blood spray patterns on plastic. And I just really don't need some person in Webster Groves to think that I am setting, chopping up a dead body on the dock or anything like that. So they actually sent a public safety officer over who stood next to me the entire time and answered all the questions of all the random people walking through campus about why I had an axe in the middle of the college campus testing blood splatters.
That's amazing.
We also did a production that had a 60-foot American flag on stage. And on Labor Day is the one in September. We were in tech for that on Labor Day. That was Actors' Day off. And that day I was on the loading dock with that flag completely across the loading dock with a blowtorch and a pair of scissors to completely distress that flag and burn it. I was like, this is all I need is for someone with the newspaper to drive by and take a picture of me on Labor Day with a blowtorch and a 60-foot American flag.
Wow.
I've also bought antique vibrators from random people that on eBay that happened to live in Webster Groves and drove up in conversion vans to give them to me out of the window of a van. I was like, oh. So we've had some interesting prop run-ins at the Repertory Theater.
But such great stories, and sounds like not at all boring.
No, my job is definitely not boring. There's always a new problem to solve, and there's always a new challenge, which is what I like.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of the greatest things about working in theater. While we're reliving some rep history, not even like thinking about the props that were in the show or how, challenging or smooth the process was, but in terms of like seeing the shows, what's your favorite rep show from your time?
Oh my goodness. Oh, that's hard.
This was not on the pre-approved question list.
The first show that I saw from the rep was when I was a student at the university, and that one has stuck with me, and that was Sweeney Todd that they did. Like that was it. That was the first show that I actually got to work a strike on, and that show has stuck with me as one of my favorite shows that they've done. My favorite show from last season to work on was definitely The Cake, because we got to make 40 gorgeous cakes that were completely fake. And my shop was just full of cake for weeks on end. Yeah, we've done so many good things. I've been here way too long. There's been so many shows.
I think it's incredible that you've been here and made this like long-term investment in the institution and know its ins and outs. I think that's so great. I also want you to know that you have a fan club happening in the comments. You can't see this, but Shannon and Emily and Gunnar and Emily Fry are here.
Oh, they're so sweet.
And Shannon says, clearly your favorite show would be anything you've stage managed, that she has stage managed. And Emily warned you before you answered to pick a good one. So just FYI. Thank you for letting me ask that, even though I did not prep you for it. I want to actually rewind. Oh, Larry also is here shouting you out.
Aww.
You have so many fans, Kelly.
Yay! I like all the fans.
I want to rewind and learn. You told us how you became a props manager, but how did you get into theater in the first place? Is your family artistic? Did you start out acting like most kids enter the theater? What's your theater origin story?
My theater origin story starts out as a dancing building in a production of Annie at a community theater in Corinth, Mississippi. My sister was playing Molly, and I was too old to be an orphan and also could not sing well enough to be an orphan, let's be real. So I got to be on stage crew. And for part of stage crew during the NYC number, we had to walk with flats and tilt them back and forth across the stage to make it look like they were walking down the street and we were dancing buildings. After that, I had both the acting bug and the technical theater bug, and did all kinds of different things through high school. And then I decided when I was in high school that I wanted to be a technical director. And I actually came to Webster to be a technical director. And my sophomore year, I propped my first show for Tim O'Sell, The Cherry Orchard. And that was like a life-changing moment for me. I realized that that was what I should do. I should not be a technical director. I was not meant to build scenery. I hated the idea of putting everything in the dumpster after a weekend or 4 weeks. I like the idea of being able to take something that we had built and make it into something else. So I started doing props then and really have never looked back. I mean, I got my degree still in technical direction, but I added a costume construction second emphasis because there was no props degree at Webster at the time. And I started out as the props master at Stages St. Louis and worked there for several years. I was the first props master for Triad Stage out in Greensboro, North Carolina. And then I've worked for other companies here in St. Louis. I did a few costume designs here and there, of all things, when I first graduated from college. But for the most part, I've really just been, and I'm one of the very few people who have only been a props manager. I have never been hired as an artisan. And that's one of the things that someday I want to just go into a shop and build and not have to manage the people or worry about the rehearsal process. Just let me go and create some things.
Good to know. And if any employers are out there hearing that, stay away. She is unavailable.
Thank you.
One last question from me. Everybody watching, if you have questions for Kelly, please feel free to put those in the comments on Facebook or in the chat on YouTube, and we will ask her. Yes, Emily says, just to point out, that you are also an artisan every day at the Rep, which is absolutely true. I don't want anyone out there to think you're just out here managing people and not making the beautiful art that they see on stage. You hand make many, many of the props that we see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my last question is, if you had the opportunity to change one thing about the theater industry, just like magic, snap your fingers and it's different, what would you change?
I think I would change how early we're getting kids involved. I really think that the path to theater's future is through the children, and getting especially underprivileged children exposed to theater early. So I'm so excited about our new education director and how we may have more outreach into the schools and how we can really get to the students early and make them know that theater is a lucrative career. It is a viable option to do technical theater. You don't have to be on stage all the time. You can create and make things with your hands. You don't have to go to college and dream about being a doctor or a lawyer. You can dream about being an artist and an artisan and really make things and be happy in life.
Aw, that's beautiful. I love that and totally agree. That's such a nice and also such a selfless answer. Like, you're not going to change any of the things that make your life challenging. You're just going to give opportunities to more folks, which I love. The people want to know, what is the double head thing on your wall?
I'm not even sure what show it's from anymore. It's one of those props that has been in this room for a very long time. And it's African in origin, but I am not exactly sure what god, or I'm assuming it's a god. I think it may actually be some form of fertility god, but it's been hanging on my wall for, I'm not even sure how long. I have all kinds of very strange things on my walls in my office. For those of you who have not been down here, I have a deer head that's currently holding a fake baby. I have statues and all kinds of things that are tiny, so that when the designers come in and they're like, oh, I really want this, I can like pull something out for them, because our warehouse is so far away from the theater. We don't have the luxury of having our stock where it's easily accessible.
Yeah. The people in that case were Gunner, just so you know,
okay.
Who wanted to know.
It's all Gunner.
Yeah. If when we can see each other in person, everyone should find an opportunity to do a backstage tour at the Rep or to visit Kelly's office if you're on campus and the prop shop, because it is a treasure trove of amazing pieces that have super interesting stories.
Everything in this building, everything in this room and everything in the shop has a story behind it. And it's been on stage at least once.
Yeah, probably often many times in many forms.
Yes.
I love a good conversion story too, like when there's a prop that began its life in one way and then had a totally different.
I still have the wolf from, now I've just lost the name of the show we did last season.
Irma Vep.
The Irma Vep wolf, which we borrowed from a theater in California, is still sitting in my office because I could not mail it back to them because of the pandemic. So there's all kinds of strange things there.
So you're saying we also just have straight up stolen goods in the shop?
No, they know we still have it. We have permission to keep it until they're open again because they're like, we can't receive it. So don't do it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Last call for questions from the audience. She's an open book.
Pretty much.
Ask away.
My students call me blunt.
Oh, do they?
Oh, yeah.
I imagine my students do as well, although it might be a less neutral word. As you know, our final segment of Flippin' the Script is Fun Facts in 60 Seconds, where I put 60 seconds on the clock. And then I ask you a bunch of questions and we answer as many of them as you can. Before we go to that segment, the people want to know, what's your favorite space? The Rep operates in many spaces.
I really love working in the studio. I love the intimacy of the studio. I love how detailed the props have to be in the studio because I can't get anything by anybody in the studio. It's like the audience members are a foot away sometimes. So everything has to be exactly right. And that's what I really love doing.
I totally agree. If I could exclusively work in small studio spaces, I absolutely would.
I mean, sometimes it's fun to do a giant musical, you know.
Yeah. But I love seeing those shows. I would just always rather like make one of the intimate ones. Oh my gosh, so many good questions coming in. Okay, hold off on fun facts for 60 seconds.
Okay.
I don't know if this is pointed because this person's an actor or not, because I don't know them. Somebody asked, who's your favorite actor?
Oh, to work with? Oh, that's
dangerous.
Yeah. That's dangerous. I mean, I work with some great ones. I mean,
who are some of your favorite actors, like who you've seen through the years at the Rep? We'll assume they've all been great to work with and you have nothing but nice things to say.
The cast from Angels in America was wonderful to work with all the changes. And there's not one person in that cast that I can single out as being like, oh, they were just, we put so much on them and they just really took it all in stride and let me attach IVs to their arms and figure out all this crazy medical stuff with them. So they were wonderful. I'm trying to think. It's sad. It's been so long, it feels like, since we've done a show.
I know.
That it seems like such ancient history on one hand, but it also feels like it was last week on the other. I love them all. I mean, there's a few, that I really don't ever need to see again. But they're all great.
Totally. And what is your favorite type of project in terms of creating props, for example, sewing, casting, upholstery, etc.?
I love upholstery. I love taking a piece of furniture and completely transforming it. But I also really love doing paper props and creating newspapers and graphics and all those kinds of things. So I love all that little minutia stuff. But upholstery, paper props, it's a toss-up for me.
Nice. This makes me want to do crafts. Okay. Thank you all for those questions. Love that. so appreciate the engagement.
Yay.
There's a comment about how gifted you are at upholstery.
Oh.
Okay, now I'm really going to put 60 seconds on the clock.
Okay.
If my phone cooperates. Okay. Nope. It's not. Okay. What is your favorite food?
Coffee.
What's your favorite board game?
Trivial Pursuit.
Favorite color?
Teal.
Favorite vacation spot?
Las Vegas or the beach?
Oh. Newspapers or magazines?
Newspapers.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
Favorite pizza topping?
Bacon.
Puppies or kittens?
Puppies.
Favorite show to binge watch?
Gilmore Girls.
Favorite visual artist?
Frida Kahlo.
Mine too. Driving or flying?
Oh, driving.
Favorite way to relax?
Pedicure.
Favorite playwright?
Lauren Gunderson.
Secret celebrity crush?
Oh, God. I would have to say, I'm going to get his name wrong. The guy who plays Lucifer on Lucifer.
Nice. I haven't gotten to that one before, and I don't write these questions. Our awesome social media lead, Ashton, writes these questions. He's trying to get me to break up some marriages. This is happening. But I appreciate you being so game, Kelly, and I'm psyched that we share our Frida love.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm particularly psyched that you have this amazing fan club in the comments, because now everyone will know not only how brilliant you are from all the smart and interesting things that you said tonight, but also because you have created such meaningful, deep relationships with everyone who has met you at the Rep, because you're so awesome to work with. You are an incredible problem solver and just a meticulous and incredibly gifted artist. So I feel really, really lucky to work with you, and thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. This was fun.
I'm so glad. That's what we're aiming for. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back in a couple of weeks with another episode of Flippin' the Script, as you can keep getting to know the incredible artists who make the Rep's work possible. And we will see you back in the theater as soon as possible. We miss you all.